What if I told you that the light hitting your eyes right now didn't travel in a straight line to get here? It took every possible path through the entire universe to reach you, including paths that loop around Jupiter, bounce off the moon, and spiral through galaxies that don't even exist yet. And the only reason you see a clean straight line is because all those other infinite paths cancel each other out. That's not a theory. That's not science fiction. That's a real idea from a man named Richard Feynman. And once you understand it, you will never look at a mirror, a rainbow, or even your own reflection the same way again. Stick with me for the next few minutes because by the end of this video, you're going to realize that reality itself might just be an average of chaos. Let's start simple. You've been taught since you were a kid that light travels in a straight line. Shine a flashlight. The beam goes straight. Look in a mirror. The light bounces off at an angle and hits your eye. Simple, clean, obvious, except it's completely wrong. Not wrong in a small way, wrong in a way that breaks how you think the universe works. In the 1940s, a wild-haired genius named Richard Feynman looked at this obvious idea of light and asked a question so strange that even other physicists thought he'd lost it. He asked, what if light doesn't take one path at all? What if it takes every path all at once and reality is just what's left over after all those paths interfere with each other? Sounds insane, right? But here's the open loop I want you to sit with for the rest of this video. If light is secretly exploring infinite paths at the same time, then what decides which path becomes real? Hold that thought. We're coming back to it. Let's build this up with something you already understand. Imagine you drop a ball off a rooftop. It falls straight down. Easy. Newton explained that centuries ago with gravity. One object, one path, one outcome. That's the world you grew up believing in. A world of certainty. Cause leads to effect. Ball drops, ball lands. Done. But zoom in far enough, down to the scale of photons, the tiny particles that make up light, and that clean certainty disappears. Feynman discovered that a photon traveling from a light bulb to your eye doesn't just take the shortest path. Mathematically, it behaves as if it tries every single path imaginable. Straight lines, curved lines, loops, zigzags through space, every possible route. All happening at once, like the universe is running trillions of simulations in parallel, just to get one photon from point A to point B. This is called the sum over histories, and it is one of the strangest, most beautiful ideas in all of physics. Now here's your first pattern interrupt, because I know what you're thinking. That sounds like nonsense. How could something take infinite paths and still end up going in a straight line? This is where it gets beautiful. Each possible path light could take carries something called a phase. Think of it like a tiny arrow spinning at a certain speed. When you add up all those spinning arrows from every possible path, most of them cancel each other out. They point in opposite directions and wipe each other clean, like waves crashing into each other and flattening out. But the paths close to a straight line barely cancel at all. They reinforce each other, they stack up, and that reinforcement is what creates the straight beam of light you see with your own eyes. In other words, the straight line you've believed in your whole life isn't the only path. It's the survivor. It's the last idea standing after an infinite war of possibilities canceled each other into nothing. Let that sink in for a second, because this is the same reason mirrors work the way they do. You've heard angle of incidence equals angle of reflection in school, right? Boring rule feels arbitrary. But Feynman showed that light bouncing off a mirror is actually testing every single angle at once, hitting the mirror at the edges, the center, corners, everywhere. And almost all of those crazy paths cancel out through interference. The only path that survives, the only one where all those spinning arrows line up instead of canceling, is the path where the angle in equals the angle out. It's not a rule someone invented. It's the last man standing in an invisible battle of infinite possibilities happening in a fraction of a nanosecond every single time light touches a mirror. Your reflection right now, this exact second, exists because of a competition between infinite futures that you'll never see. Let's push this further. Because we're not done. Here comes your mid-video twist. You'd think this infinite paths idea only matters for tiny invisible particles, something locked away in a physics lab irrelevant to your daily life. But it's not. This exact principle, the sum over histories, is the foundation for quantum electrodynamics, the theory that predicts how light and matter interact with a level of accuracy that's almost unbelievable. Accurate to the width of a hair compared to the distance from New York to Los Angeles. It's been called the most precisely tested theory in the history of science. Every time you use a phone screen, every time a laser scans a barcode, every time an LED lights up your room, You are relying on the practical results of this insane idea that particles explore every possible path before settling into the one we see. The technology in your pocket right now exists because Feynman was willing to ask a question that sounded crazy enough to get laughed out of a room. Now here's the climax. The big reveal we've been building toward this entire video. Remember the open loop. What decides which path becomes real? The unsettling answer is, nothing decides it in advance. There is no cosmic referee picking the straight line ahead of time. The straight line, the reflection, the rainbow bending through raindrops. None of it is chosen. It emerges. It's the mathematical leftover of infinite competing possibilities, canceling each other out until only one survives. Reality at its core, according to Feynman's own framework, behaves less like a fixed line and more like a democracy of infinite chaos, where most outcomes vote themselves out of existence and only the most reinforced answer survives to become what we call the real world. That means the straight path of light isn't the universe following a rule. It's the universe running every possibility and showing you only the winner. Sit with that the next time you flip on a light switch, glance in a mirror, or watch sunlight bend into a rainbow after the rain. You're not looking at simplicity. You're looking at the last survivor of an invisible war between infinite versions of reality that happened in less time than it takes you to blink. If this genuinely broke your brain a little, that's the whole point of this channel. Taking ideas that sound impossible and showing you they're actually happening around you right now. If you want more of your reality quietly melted, hit like, so this reaches more curious minds. Subscribe if you want to keep exploring the weird truth hiding behind obvious physics. And drop a comment telling me what part of this blew your mind the most. I read every single one.